Hello and welcome to Focus on Liberia. Welcome to the program, the Freedom of Information Hour, as always, with Mr. Julius T. Jaesen II as host. I'm Anthony CA, hanging out with my partner here in this second edition of the program, the Freedom of Information Hour. Well, in this particular edition, the topic for discussion is President Weah's re-election efforts and VP JNB 2023 prospects. That is Vice President Joseph Human Walker's prospects for the 2023 presidential election. Julius is here as the host. He has a guest who is seated, except that he's on the phone. He is an intellectual. He follows these things, and he's here to give his take on all these things that are happening in Liberia, especially to address the topic that we have for today. Julius, it's over to you. How you doing?
I'm doing super excited. Well, thank you, Anthony C, for the backing and the sort of work that you do for our country. I'm glad that I've been able to have a platform on Focus on Liberia so that we can use so wisely and productively the platform to enable the better Liberia we all seek for in our different advocacies that we do. So, I'm really excited to be on the platform once again on the Freedom of Information Hour on the Focus on Liberia online TV. Well, we today going to be super excited. We have intellectuals. We have he's not just an intellectual, but an academic, a scholar, who is also into the educational sector of our country and imparting knowledge. But he has a profound sense of nationalism and an electing perspective on the geopolitical happenings within our country. So he's nobody else but Mr. Abraham Rahim Bility. He will come to introduce himself, but we want to apologize to our audience that we, for the second time again, could not bring live that you can see our guests. But we're hoping that the next edition, we will be able to have our guests where you can see him or her lively as you can see Mr. Anthony C. The whole Julius T. Jaesen. So I'm really excited. I'd like to say, Bility, you are welcome. Aqua Show for the first time on the Focus on Liberia, but a sisterly program, the Freedom of Information Hour. You are welcome, Ryan Bility.
Thank you. Thank you, Julius, for the invitation. I'm excited to join on your platform today to talk about issues that are relevant to our society. You say I should introduce myself. You said a lot about me, and my name is Abraham Arability, and so I am an academician. I work for the last 14 years in my life in higher education administration. And I've been involved with issues about society in the world because I come from the background of human society. I've studied sociology as a first degree, did a master's degree in peace and conflict studies with emphasis in democratic governance. And then I went on to begin my doctoral studies in international development with specific focus on post-war societies. And so I'm glad to be here today to share my perspective on the efforts of President Weah re-election and the prospect of Ambassador Joseph Human Walker did in 2023. And so I'm excited. But let me say to your team that I enjoyed the introductory music. It reminds me of my days in Kipamos when I used to be at the university, at Tubman University, and enjoying the beauty of that land. And so I enjoy the music. Though I did not understand the language, but I mean, just the drumming makes me feel good.
Thank you so very much. Our guest is Mr. Ibrahim Bilete on the phone in our nation's capital, Monrovia. You heard him there. He does this for passion, not only passion, he's a nationalist, he's a patriot, and he believes that Liberia, like any other country, can be developed. It can become that shining city on a hill, and it requires the effort of all to do so, and that is why he's here. Mr. Bilete, we are good to have you. We hope this will not be your first and last time. And thank you for following Focus on Liberia also as we try to educate, elevate, and promote all things Liberia. Folks, if you have not shared yet, please do so. This is the Information Hour with Mr. Julius T. Jaesen II as your host. Again, we remind you the topic is President Weah's re-election efforts and VP Joseph Yaman Boakai 2023 prospects. You know Mr. Boakai is running to be president. So Julius will take over as we start with the first segment of the discussion. President George Manuel Weah's re-election efforts. Julius, take it from me.
Well, thank you, Sia. Thank you. Thank you. So, Mr. Bilete, directly we going to put the debate into a segment where, so basically to our audience, we will first start with President Weah re-election efforts. And we all know that President Weah re-election efforts will be conditioned on the overall performance of the Weah government over the last 4 years. So, Mr. Bilete, we would like to know your thorough assessment of the overall performance of the Weah government. Just give us, just a summary, then we will go to the Pacific to be asking you questions in terms of the area of security and the rule of law, in terms of the economy and job creation, infrastructure development, freedom of speech and of the media. But basically, you can give us an overall assessment of what you think about the George Weah government. Is Weah delivering on his policy promises, or is the Weah government failing on its policy promises?
Okay, Julius, as you said, that you want us to frame this discussion in context, and so many of my responses will be placed in context. And as you asked as to whether the Weah TC-led government has been able to deliver on its promises, on governance, I will certainly say that in a society like ours, that is characterized by many impoverished people, it is often the quest for those people to see transformation in their lives through development and development in the context of human development. And so that would encapsulate the issue of infrastructure, the issue of education, health, the economy. And so on the overall, to answer your question, 2 years ago, the World Bank reported that over 500,000 Liberians were being pushed below the poverty line. Additional 500,000 almost have been pushed towards below the poverty line. And so that indicates the performance of the government, that if the government is responsible to provide the kind of development in the context of human development for its people, and then 500,000 of its citizens and citizenry can be pushed below the poverty line, it indicates that the government has not delivered on its promises.
Hello, are you there?
Yeah, go ahead,
Julius. I'm here.
Okay, yeah, then we can move on in terms of security and the rule of law. How do you view the performance of the government?
Julius, I read fortnight ago some publications by well-meaning Liberians about some of the security issues that now beguile our country. I know on one of the platforms it was noted that by 7 o'clock p.m., which is just around 2100, so it's around 1900 hours GMT. You have a lot of our citizens running the streets, going home in fear of their lives. So this indicates the nature of the security situation in our country. You recently heard about mysterious or unexplained deaths of past president's sons, and the police is yet to apprehend the suspect or persons of interest. And all of these things point to the state of security. And security is not just about the physical food security. You also look at human security. How are our hospitals doing? What's our nutritional level amongst our younger generation? What is it?
Belete, are you there? Are you there, Belete? Mr. Belete, are you there?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Mr.
Yes,
Belete.
yes,
Go ahead.
yes.
Go ahead, Mr.
Yes,
Belete.
yeah, are you getting me?
Yeah.
Yeah, and so when you combine all of these efforts and elements, they point to the country not being secure, even at the very minimum. Because oftentimes we get to mistake security to mean just the presence of armed and military people in the streets or providing physical security at night. But what about the issue of human security? How are we faring with our healthcare system? What are we doing with education? How vibrant is our educational sector trying to improve? How are we providing the requisite technological knowledge to our young generation to challenge them for the future? So all of these things combined, I can say safely that we are far below the belt on security.
Thank you, Mr. Belete. If I may here, on the segment that we're on right now, President Weah's re-election effort. In your opinion, any sitting president, what should be their effort if they are seeking re-election with respect to the living condition of the people?
And so the whole issue of, and I hear this mythical argument that President Weah is developing the country. And then when you ask them how is he developing the country, the only thing you hear, oh, the man is building roads, the man build markets, the man, but again, your question is what any sitting president would do to a nation like such as ours in order to wield the kind of massive support that he or she needs to get re-elected. It has to be in the context of human development. The people must begin to transform their lives in such a way that increases their longevity on earth. We'll talk about the issue of the life expectancy that culminates into that when you are trying to calculate, you measuring all of the indicators that tend to provide a well-being of a human person. And so any president who fails to provide these necessary and essential elements that tend to develop the human person is just on the path of failure. So you ask the question, how many of our young people graduating from universities and colleges have joined the labor force, have been able to get employment? How are their skills? How are their skills acquired through these universities and tertiary institutions marketable and sellable within our society that it can get easily absorbed into the labor force to provide the basic needs for their families? And so all of these things are not happening. And when one community rule is constructed and people think that the country is being developed, the country cannot get developed when the human person is not developed.
Mr. Belete, in your opinion, given what the CDC government is doing to win the Liberian people in its corner, are there things that they are doing that some Liberians can see or will see to say Well, I think the government is doing its best, and so I'd rather stick with the government other than the opposition we know now that is infighting. Someone might think that, the things they're doing are very good efforts to secure a second victory.
Well, I would not sit here on this platform and argue that some people will not have such thoughts. Mm-hmm. But are those people in the majority to let in the victory? Are those people who are singing those songs actually coming to bear with the reality of our economy? Are they coming to bear with the reality of security here that has known our country? Are they coming to reality with the poor healthcare system that we experience in our society? So yeah, there will be some people who, for personal reasons and selfish interests, will still think that the government isn't well. Because, for example, if you took a man who has no skill, has never worked before, has no formal education, and you give him a salary that somebody who has gone through the rest of part of education, who has developed themselves adequately, that man who had no skill and getting unemployment thinks that all is just well, because in his dream, in his life, there's no way possible he will have reached to where he's reached. And so you provide an opportunity, he's going to see it that way. But on the overall, let's look at the aggregate level. How many of our people see that the government is doing well? Well, in a sense of that means the lives are being transformed.
Mr. Ability, you just talked about the issue of life expectancy, the overall life expectancy in our country in terms of measuring the government progress. But when you look at the data from the United Nations projection, where this government inherited a country from the previous government you were a part of, I think, the government in the past, and the life expectancy at the time in 2018 was 63.6, which represented a 0.9% increase in 2018. That was in 2018, the life expectancy. It jumped to 64 in 2020. Now it is 64.16. Now in 2021, according to the projection of the United Nations, life expectancy in Liberia is 64.44. What are you ought to say?
Julius, you have to check the data properly. I don't know which site you got the data from, but as the best of the collective research of my knowledge, the last data that I checked in the last data that I checked in 2017, the life expectancy was around 62, comparable to that of Guinea. And so to come and say we were 44, I want to see that data.
Go ahead.
And I can put on my computer. And let me put my computer and be able to provide the data that I just provided. And so we cannot this much. We cannot argue this much about the data because it depends on the source of your data. But the last data in 2017 put Liberia at 62 from the war years where we were down to 44, 45. And then over 10, 11 years, we grew to 62. We grew up to 62. And now, so in 4 years, if they can do it, if they can take it from, if the government, current government, according to your data, which I have to fact check, if you claim that it has grown from 62 to 64.1, then that's good. But however, how good is it?
He said he jumped to 64.44.
According to UN.
64.44?
Yeah, and he said he's quoting the United Nations, right?
Yes, the United Nations 2021 data on Liberia.
So that's recent data he's talking about.
In 2020, it was 64.16. In 2019, it was 63.88. In 2018, when the George Weah government inherited the government from the previous government of the Unity Party, it was at 63.60. So the data does not squarely resonate with the argument that you are making that the CDC government is not doing well in terms of healthcare and other issues.
But Julius, there's a recent report. I'm sure you have seen a recent report on the Millennium Challenge Compound, and you've seen the indicators. You've seen the outcome, and so this is not something we need to argue about because there's the most recent data I think that came out 2 or 3 days ago. That came out 2 or 3 days ago. That's one of the very things that we are talking. And so, if a report according to you that you claim that suggested some months ago, there is one of just 2-3 days ago on the Millennium Challenge Compass that talks about primary health care and all of these issues, and you see how it's driven.
And Mr. Billete, that report that Julius is citing is only talking about life expectancy. I don't think it covers the entire healthcare. That is just a separate element of health. Yeah, go ahead.
Health is one of the indices. Health is one of the indices that tend to come into calculating life expectancy. It's not just the health is part.
I agree with you, and that's what I'm pointing that out. Is only speaking specifically about life expectancy. That there is an increase. It started going up from 61%, 62, which you cited, and then 63 in 2018, and now 64.44, just life expectancy. Folks, you are watching the Freedom of Information Hour with Mr. Julius T. Jaesen as your host. I'm Anthony C. Standing by here with him. And we have Mr. Ibrahim Bilete as guest. He is on the phone, and he is joining us from Monrovia, Liberia. The topic for discussion is President Weah's re-election efforts and Vice President Joseph Imambwaka's prospect for 2023. Mr. Bilete, let us look at one of the major promises made by the CDC, which was to create jobs, predominantly for young people. If you look at that now, and knowing that the youth demographic represent the huge chunk of the entire population of Liberia, and we see that CDC is being heavily supported by the youth, and we see that still accurately. Does that mean the CDC is doing well with the youth, which represent a major factor?
But you haven't tested the CDC's popularity sometimes on the women of the youth population that you can point to, because just in 2020 the CDC ran elections and campaign in the senatorial by-elections and massively lost to the opposition party. And so to think that to use the 2017 stats of the youth-driven, which is also marked with flaws, because if you look at the data, you get to see there was not a huge trooping of young people or votes towards CDC in 2017 as people usually would insinuate. And so it is not a right analysis to make that the CDC party is driven by youth. Well, in 2005, when George Weah put up himself to be president, a lot of young people were saying driven towards him because he came on the football field as a celebrity, and so they enjoyed him on the football pitch, and so they felt that that's the symbol in his presidency were men, and so then they trooped towards him. But today, some of those youth are no longer youth. They have grown up. They have come to reality with the terms. They have come to terms with the existing realities in our country, and so they are making informed judgment. So it's not about youth driving or George Weah is driving the youth. That is not a current reality in our political dispensation.
Mr. Bilete, of recent, President Weah celebrated his 55th birthday. And the crowd reportedly was massive, that it was difficult to get around the streets of Monrovia during the time of the birthday celebration. Are you saying that President Weah is now staying in a better position given what we saw on his birthday?
But see, and I'm sure that you've been to Monrovia in recent times to know the geographic of the geographic of Monrovia. So if you block a major road that goes to a populated district of the county, you expect that there will be jams of traffic. And so there was not a traffic jam because the place was so overcrowded. Because what the capacity first of the state at which President Weah held his birthday celebration, it's so you have to look at the demographic of the place, the geography of your place, and be able to make a decision as to what actually it is.
But Mr. Ability, one can argue that the crowd that gathered at his birthday celebration was more than the crowd that gathered during Mr. Bwaka's event when he was taking over the chairmanship of the CPP. And that crowd was even 2 times the crowd that gathered when Cummings was having his convention.
But there are several reasons why people would gather at birthday parties or at wedding parties. You're talking about a party where people are going to marry, people are going to have drinks, people are going to have food. For some reasons, look, it sounds like
what are those reasons you think that people gather at the birthday party of George Weah? Mr. Ability, what are those reasons you believe in your mind that people gather at the birthday celebration of Ambassador Weah if he is not doing well as a president?
One of the reasons?
I said, what are those reasons you believe?
Were you to come to Monrovia today and hold a birthday party, even on a street that you are not known, within 10 to 15 minutes, the birthday party will be full because people know that they're going there, they will have food to eat, they will have a drink to have, and then that was it. So they knew that it was the president's birthday, and there will be drink, and they made a big publicity about it for 2 weeks. All of the flyers, the posters were placed on billboards and everything, and so everybody had that feeling that those who couldn't afford to have meal those 2 or 3 days, they had to go there to have a time to eat. And so that was the reason. But does it mean that because people go to your birthday party so they love you to be leader or they appreciate you? That's not the case, Julius. You have to understand the issue of crowd. There are different kinds of crowd and they congregate for different reasons.
Well, Mr. Ability, there are reports that the government of President Weah has been building, I think, what they call pro-poor housing, right? In several counties. Of recent, I believe it was in Grand Bassa County, where the president was attending at a ceremony at which they were giving machines to fishermen, I believe in the Grand Bassa area. And you could tell the excitement of the residents, something that they have not seen before. And then this issue of solar panel lights being provided in some leeward counties. These are things Liberians have never seen before, even during the Ellen Johnson Sirleaf administration that was well funded. Don't you think these are efforts that can propel President Weah to a second victory, especially when CPP is in chaos?
Well, and we'll get to that. The CPP is not in chaos. The CPP may have issues, but the CPP is not in chaos. But just so that you know, that and this is the thinking, the thought processes of those who think that Judge Weah or President Weah going to have a victory in 2023. That will because he goes to a county and on a small level of maybe 1 meter or 2 kilometers or 1 kilometer, and then he puts few street lights, solar lights that have no direct benefit to the homes of those people that he's going to land in the presidency. That's so if a villager wants to read, because he has a test to take the next day as a child, he has to go on the street light and leave his home only because he wants to read. So you say, Madam Saleh, I'm not sure that this conversation is to draw a comparison between George Weah leadership and that of Madam Saleh leadership, because that would be comparing apple to lime. And I don't think we have to go there, because the legislature that we both about the country today, from 0 energy to 80 megawatts to the mine copy hydro production, to that of 35 megawatts from the HFO plant at the Bourgeois, all was installed and brought to this country by Madam Saleh. So I'm not sure that we intend to compare Madam Saleh's success to that of George Weah leadership that at the table at this time, because it would be comparing apples to lime.
And maybe add before Julius can come in the area of education. The challenges that we have in the educational sector are not new. You can say that they were on our feet even during Ellen's time, to the point that she called the educational system a mess. Now, Weah came in, free tuition at the University of Liberia and other public colleges in the Republic. On top of that, we saw a McGill, offering scholarship. There was one in Bond County. I think there was one recent time in Nimba County, if I'm not mistaken. They are paying wise school fees. And these are things that real Liberians are benefiting from. Something that the opposition is not being able to. Yeah, go ahead.
To you add to your point, but the fact that the Weah government 2 years ago was able to declare that at all public universities and colleges, free education, meaning before to the University of Liberia, people used to struggle with fees in terms of paying the credit hour today on the Weah. All universities and colleges, government owned, are free.
Well, you think that is not a good effort that could prepare him to a second victory?
And I'm sure that Julius didn't want to elevate this conversation regarding the issue of free tuition. So we must, because this is something that I have done for the last 13, 14 years.
Okay.
We must be able to distinguish tuition from fees. So no public university or institution, higher institution of learning, is totally free. It's tuition free. So the tuition and there are fees. Sometimes the fees may even be higher than the tuition based on the number of credits that students choose to carry at a time. And so it cannot be put out in the public that universities and colleges in Liberia are all free. The tuition component of the total amount of money students should pay to universities and colleges, in public universities and colleges, are not free. So we have to put the right information to the public. So yes, tuition, yes, they have waived tuition, but there are other fees that students pay. But are we concerned about the quality of the education that we provide? Recently, I think that the statement is still on the University of Liberia faculty how to lay down the chalk. Because the necessary materials needed to provide quality education have not been provided by the government.
Mr. Ability, hold on.
So we are only concerned about, the name or the president make tuition free.
Mr. Ability,
our young people. We cannot play politics for education.
Mr. Ability, Mr. Ability.
There was a mistake on the part of the government to have announced that policy. That has not helped to improve the quality of education within our public schools.
Mr. Ability,
a lot of our people who struggle to see a child school are saying that children out to private universities and colleges because they come to realize that the public universities and colleges, since the president pronounced the free tuition, the standard has dropped.
Right.
So a lot of our people who struggle are now sending their kids and relatives to private universities.
Mr. Ability, you are talking about the issue of teachers laying down their chalks. You are an educator. You know very well. You know the facts. You know how many times teachers and professors have laid down chalks, not only at public universities.
What are the issues now? Are they laying down the chalk because there are good sanitary conditions on the campus? Are they laying down the chalk because they have instructional material? Are they laying down the chalk because of that? So it has to be, what are they laying down the chalk for, and what did they lay down the chalk for before? They are laying down the chalk not because they demand salary. They demand many other things to provide quality education to our young people.
It has been the same reasons, Mr. Ability. It has always been the same reasons in the past.
It hasn't been the same. I work with two public universities. This hasn't been the same. I still have friends there. I still talk to them.
Okay.
It hasn't been the same way.
All right.
The University of Liberia here. Walk on the Capitol Hill campus just opposite the president's office and see how filthy that campus is. Go there.
Yeah, that I will agree with you, but I attended the University of Liberia too. I don't remember a time that university in my lifetime was ever in a befitting condition to my satisfaction and to the satisfaction of anybody who really have a unique understanding of what a university should be. I don't know. You can convince me here and my audience.
You say it to your satisfaction. To your satisfaction. Your satisfaction may just be way above the minimum standard. But what I'm saying, if you think that it has not been deficient to your satisfaction, I think at this point you may not even want to enter that premises. Because it is far below what you left it to be.
I will agree. I've seen these pictures. It has deteriorated to the significant level. But again, I maintain I don't think the University of Liberia.
It has deteriorated on the George Weah government. It has deteriorated on the George Weah government with his free tuition policy.
All right, but we can agree that the fact that students are not paying tuition is significant, right?
But
yes.
Look.
Can we agree that is significant? They're not paying tuition. They are poor people, children. They're not paying tuition. That is significant. Can we agree on that?
It has some good in it. But policymakers don't make decisions just on the surface. You want to analyze all of the variables.
But the poor student might base his voting on that. But the poor student might base his voting on that. That is a good effort, accurately on the part of the CDC to snatch in these votes from the young people whose parents are in destitution and can't afford to pay the fees in the first place.
The issue of the university has not been tuition. The issue of the university has not been tuition.
No, it has always been tuition. I attended that university. It has always been tuition. Many students will not go to school because their parents cannot afford. So do not brush that aside. Will you?
No, but yes. Then you have to look at the enrollment staff of the university, on Mr. Kelly and that of George Weah since they announced the tuition-free policy. But don't go to school because it's named as a school. There are elements, there are components, there are things that are made out of a school or out of a university. And so those things are not being provided. It's not just the building. It's not just the building. If an instructor cannot have material to deliver the quality of education to the students, you think students will prove that the enrollment at the University Library in the last 2 years has dropped because of the fiscal policy. Let's be honest. Most people want quality. They don't just want quantity. So the University Library issue has not been the issue of tuition. The issue of the quality. How can you transition into quality? The government has not failed. The government has not done that.
All right.
So they have made policies for education, and thereby thinking that will learn them the vote.
All right.
Go to private universities. Come to private universities in our country. The private universities are being overcrowded now because a lot of the people who want to send their children to school, who are chocolate sellers, who are better born sellers, would not want to send their children to university library or public universities because they very well know that the quality has dropped. They are saying that private universities admit difficulty.
Thank you, Mr. Ability. Let's come to the other segment.
It's to have a child with a degree that worth its merit. That's what people want.
All right.
So most of these things that the Weah-led government is doing, it's just to mesmerize the people and making them feel that, oh yeah, we are there in your interest. But it is not solving the problem that government needs to solve. That's the point.
All right, go ahead, Julius.
Okay, Mr. Ability, before we move on to Ambassador Joseph Newman Baka prosper in the upcoming 2023 presidential elections, we want to hear your perspective on the government fight against corruption. You and your master in conflict and peace study with emphasis in democratic governance. And we all know, according to the TRC report and many other reports, pointed to the fact that corruption, among other factors, is the reason why Liberia wasted 14 years of bloodless civil unrest. President Weah, in 2017 election, promised that under his watch as president of the Republic of Liberia, corruption, he would declare zero tolerance for corruption. And I would like to quote him verbatim to hear your view as to whether the government has done remarkably well in fighting public sector dishonesty, public sector corruption. President Weah quote verbatim, he said, as your president, I will fight corruption in the stronger way by cutting wasteful spending and creating a zero tolerance policy. I will create a special law code to fight corruption decisively, and I will strengthen the legislature that will quickly bring corrupt officials and public servants to book. There will be no recycling of corrupt officials in my government, and if you are caught for corruption, you will not work in my government. What are you to say, Mr. Ability, about the government commitment, President? We are committed to promise in dealing with the ghost of corruption in public sector.
So it was good that you didn't read what President Weah said when he took over the country. So you just provided a clearer insight as to what has happened. So the question is, you're a journalist, you've been writing, you've been reading. Have we had the corruption code established? Have we had that established? All we see, have we not seen perceived corrupt officials recycling? Perceived corrupt officials recycling. Are we not seeing current officials of government putting...
For example, you get an example in terms of corrupt officials that have been recycled.
And going to counties and posturing as millionaires when they were not even thousandaires yesterday. And so the Liberian people are seeing, look, let me say this, Julius, I think what many of our people have not come to realize about Liberian society, I think the Liberian society is just so foolish that you can do anything to the Liberian people and come back to them and say, hey, give me power, and then they'll give you power. That is not the case. That's not the case with Liberian people. It happened. See the history of populist president in our country, 1980. Though not democratically, but President Doe took over, and the masses of our people, jubilated him. Just on a 4 year, when they went to the election in 1985, they rejected him at the polls. He forced himself on them. They went back, regrouped, and they brought the popular uprising in 1989. So Charles stood up there the same. He came on money, he came on power, vote for you. Just after 6 years or 5 years, they said, go, Papa, go. So our Liberian people will give you the platform when they see themselves in you, that see as that transformational person. But when you take on the mantle of authority and you fail to provide, to deliver on what they expect, they easily will turn away from you. This time around, they're not going to go to Buto. This time around, they're not going to go to the border of the Sierra Leone. They're going to go to the ballot boxes and make that decision as they did in 2020 in the May election.
Mr. Ability, if I may here, on Julius' question, let me follow up here. The gentleman called Charles de Gaulle, my understanding where he was the head of the port of Buchanan. Oh. He's no longer on the job because of allegation of wrongdoing or financial wrongdoing. I also remember a gentleman called Duana Sion, who was at some point at the housing authority. He's no longer on the job. No. Let me learn, Mr. Ability. Let me learn, Mr. Ability. Mr. Ability, let me learn with my question. You can correct me if I state anything wrongly, okay? Duana Sion, my understanding is that he was made to leave that job because of the accusation of wrongdoing, and I think that was him and somebody called some of his deputies were relieved of their position. Now we know the guy who's supposed to be the head of the LACC, he's in trouble. He's not on the job as we speak. I think he's on some sort of suspension of a leave or something. That is accountability. I mean, if somebody may put it that way. Then we have the Nigerian guy, Wambodiki. Liberians cried that he should not be there. I believe he was made to resign. He did resign. And so there have been instances of people being accused of financial wrongdoing, and they've been made to leave their job. Don't you see that as accountability on the part of the Weah government?
So you mentioned Charles de Gaulle or Charles Gaulle, and you said that he was accused and he left, but he has made some shocking revelations.
I agree.
The LSTC.
But Ali, he's not on the job. And before I forget, Brandon Samunka is being persecuted as we speak. Go ahead.
Let's forget. The direct supervisor of Charles Gaulle is the one who is riding around with President Weah. You're not mentioning that. So you talk about the LATC. I should be referring to my good friend Bala.
That is correct.
For his integrity purpose, he asked his office to grant him a leave of absence so that he can deal with the situation. It was all of his goodwill. It was all of his quest for integrity.
Right.
It's not because of the result of the government action. Okay. But let me say this to you.
What's about Bernie Samuka? What's about Bernie Samuka, who is being persecuted for allegation? What's about Bernie Samuka, who is being persecuted for allegation?
We woke up this morning, so you can go on a goose chase. What happened to the people George Weah appointed in his government? You talk about Donald Trump. Donald Trump has gone back to his job. He has gone back to his job from LWSC. He has gone back to his job. The controller from RIA has gone back to his job while the managing director is out. And so we can go naming scores of individuals who are starting. This is why
this is news for me. I have to follow that.
We were working by a newspaper story on the Daily Observer that the United States government, our traditional ally partner, has said to us that look, they are getting tired, or they are tired.
Yeah, he didn't say they're getting tired. He said they are tired. He said they are tired. I just read that article this morning. Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, that there's no progress that has been made. So we're talking about just a few hours ago. We need to be clear. Look, this is our country, and this is why I enjoy the nomenclature.
Will you give the government a little pat on the back on this passport scandal that was happening? Because I understand the director is no longer on the job. Does the government deserve some credit here? This guy is not on the job, even though he went around, alarming all kinds of wrongdoing. What's your take on that, too?
Okay, so it's good, all right. You get involved into fraud, you pollute the system, and then the only thing you do is take you off the job, and then they launch an investigation, and nothing comes out of it. What happens to the report of an alleged extortion that was being carried out by a person in the president's office, for which this Minister of State was interviewed on the VOA, and he said that the president's legal advisor was investigating the matter and would later provide the output as to whether they should turn the person was the LSCC. What comes out of that investigation? So it is one thing to act and pretend like you want to do something, it's another thing to do it. And so the Liberian people that we continue to underestimate, that they don't understand what's happening around them, because we think that we'll throw them rights, we'll throw them money, we're doing elections, they're going to vote for us. I think 2020 should have been a very real case to send a signal to President Weah and his team that the Liberian people are not stupid. The Liberian people understand what's at stake. The Liberian people know certainly that their lives are not improving on his watch, and that if he needs to go back to them to ask them for the vote, he needs to catch up.
Thank you. Thank you so very much. And Julius, something before we go to the prospect of JNB in 2023. This is significant, Julius. Let me bring that to our guests' attention to address that. The current vice president, Julius, right now is in political harmony with President Weah. I using my political eyes here. I think the opposition was hoping that she was going to divorce the CDC to open a furthermore opportunity for them. But the CDC, being calculated, said, no, we got to keep this woman close. She has a base, bomb counter, she's popular. And so this is a CPP we know will struggle to get a vice presidential candidate. And maybe if it does, that person, we don't know for sure who that person is going to be. That person might not be as strong compared to Joel Howard Taylor. This might be a significant political strategy on the part of the CDC that might help to contribute to their second-term victory. What's your take on that?
And your question now drives me to some of the basic data that I thought to provide as we transition to broadcast prospects of 2023 elections, or the opposition through broadcast as arrowhead prospect for 2023. This may surprise you to know that in 2017, when George Weah, President Weah now, again George Weah, or Senator Weah, campaigned, he campaigned as a grand coalition of three political institutions. that the NPP, who Joel Howard Taylor is a part of and still remains a part of, who is now the vice president that you just referenced, and it is the CDC, the Congress of Democratic Change, and the LPDP for Ellis Saleh, combined with some of the forces that fought with some of the forces within the unit party that did not support Weah, got 596,037 votes in the first round of elections. With Joseph Weah as single man, Weah as the unity party, with all of the opposition against him, got 446,716 votes, with a difference between he and George Weah, who are the two front runners, 149,000 votes. So that means Joel Howard Taylor was still on the ticket when that number could not push them far enough to victory. Now, in the runoff, we began a binary choice because of the opposition solidarity, which is the power of incumbency, is the history of incumbency. In our society, incumbents find it difficult to get re-elected. And so, in the runoff, George Weah appreciated in numbers, but 136,000 plus votes, while Joseph Weah only appreciated with 10,000 votes. Now, so to think that Joel Howard Taylor remaining on the ticket has added a number of George Weah, that's not true, because the Liberian people going to vote on their experiences, the experiences they're having with the economy, the experiences they're having with the lives of the children, their education, the health care, and everything. That's what they're going to be voting on. That's what they're going to be voting on. They're not going to be voting because Joel Howard Taylor has been on the ticket, is on the ticket. So you have to look at the data and see, has George Weah demonstrated enough of a leadership to transform the lives of our people enough for which they're going to troop towards him as they did in 2005 or 2017?
Yeah, but Mr. Ability, if you look at how the current conglomeration of opposition political party, where it's actually fragmented, they are divided to the extent the CPP in the last 3 years that was being viewed as a credible, viable, and authentic opposition that the Liberian people can trust, for which the Liberian people supported, were in the most recent militant senatorial elections that saw the CPP winning most of the seats, senatorial seats across our country. Right after that important victory, we have seen how the CPP has been so fragmented. Don't you think with that fragmentation in the CPP that they go divided in 2023 election, where Kumi supporter opposing Joseph Weah and Weah supporter opposing Kumi, don't you think that when they go into that election divided, it will provide a smooth chance for ambassador, a smooth pathway for ambassador Weah re-elections effort, especially so where either Weah or Kumi go to a run-up, supporter of Kumi may most likely think that Weah and supporter are responsible for their defeat in the first round of the election, and vice versa to where if Kumi qualify for a run-up with Ambassador Weah, that Ambassador Weah and his supporter may believe Kumi and his supporter are responsible for the disqualification in the first round of the election, to the extent that they will say it better we all support while we lend our support to Weah, let we all as opposition lose it because of the deepening crisis that has separated us.
So in every political arrangement, there will be differences, there will be issues. So to begin to predict that the CPP, because there are issues, so the CPP will go fragmented, I don't want to buy into that prediction. However, given the statistics that I just provided to you, and given the current political and economic variables that are interplaying with our politics, it is highly likely for the opposition to win in 2023 against the George Weah re-election. Because even with Weah as incumbent and George Weah as an opposition figure, as in his prime, as seen as George Weah because of his celebrity star, because he came from the football field, he had not been tested into national leadership. People saw him as a humanitarian then, and so that he would take that humanitarian spirit and leadership to bring it to the presidency that would transform their livelihood. That hasn't happened. Those people are disenchanted. those people are feeling angry of the decision they made in his favor. Are you saying that so you predicting that those same people who farmers are being killed, who husbands are being killed, will troop to George Weah as they did in 2017? Is that what you're predicting? Let me say this to you, Julia.
And are you also predicting? Are you also predicting? Are you also predicting that it's very few Liberian people?
To begin to narrow the opposition community to that of Waka and Cummins, I think it's a mistake. The opposition community is not Waka and Cummins. There are many other elements within the opposition community. Why are you not talking about Uri? Why are you not talking about Castell? Why are you not talking about Rainbow Alliance? Why are you not talking about Young Kanga Alliance and the party? So if Waka alone going against all opposition in 2017, the vote difference between George Weah and Waka in the first round of elections was 149,000. Now that Waka has been able to some extent, we see it, that Uri has publicly said that he's going to support. So Uri has been leaning with the Senator DeLong, or been leaning towards Waka.
Mr. Ability.
So in case there's a fact between the people, but which will not be, because we are very much sure and convinced that there will be a united CPP, and within unity, we're going to give George Weah and his leadership a one-term victory.
Mr. Ability,
on the first ballot, we're going to win election.
Mr. Ability, somebody might think it's laughable that you are mentioning a Uri and a Cassell has been any factor in determining who takes the executive action. Cassell has not netted a single opinion poll vote in all polls conducted so far. Neither a Uri. I mean, to think that this individual is going to have an opposition candidate to victory. And you also mentioned that you will not narrow. We shouldn't narrow the opposition to only the CPP or Waka and Cummins. To Waka and Cummins. Yeah, Cummins and Waka. So, who are the other oppositions groups or parties or individuals, actors besides the people that you name? Who are they? I mean, minus the CPP, are there other opposition individuals, parties, and actors out there that may go the way of the CPP? Because what I see here is that chances are that because the CDC also is promising that it will solidify its coalition. It will bring other parties to the fore. And we've seen that happening. What's his name? Snow. He's not a sedition, but he's supporting President Weah. Ray Johnson has a party. He's supporting President Weah. So don't forget about that also. Julius, you want to ask something? Go ahead. Hold on, Mr.
Snow was the Unity Party's executive committee member of the Unity Party. He resigned from the Unity Party. He was able to weed the whole of Bombing County. And you cannot doubt that Snow has an influence in Bombing County. And he's somebody who promised him to be the campaign manager of Ambassador George Weah. Don't you think with the effort on the part of the CDC to weed other opposition parties to herself to solidify her base before the 2023 election, and with the fragmentation within the opposition to which you are a member of, may that contribute significantly to Weah re-election efforts?
Exactly, because we didn't have Snow, and he defeated Mr. Bwaka in the past election.
And decisively, not just defeat, but decisively in 14 of the 15 counties.
So it is easy to keep going, to get conversation in cycles. But let me scratch the point that the Liberian people vote on the basis of their experience. And so in 2017,
how is that true, Mr. Benedict? No, let's clarify this before you move forward. Liberian people have been voting people based on experience. Was Charles Taylor voted because of experience? Was Samuel Doe voted because of experience? Was George Weah voted because of experience?
So yes. In 1980, as I said earlier, Samuel Doe did not come to power through election.
Okay.
He used a gun.
Okay.
And the people celebrated him because they saw themselves in him as a native man, and they sang a song, Native Woman Born So Your Woman Born Road.
But I thought he won re-election. He won an election after that, right?
I'm coming.
Okay.
I'm coming.
Go ahead.
I'm coming. And to tell that now that one of their own, somebody who came from nowhere, who was not part of the order, has now taken over, and that person would now provide them the kind of improvements that they seek. In 1985, the record shows that the Amos Hammond Commission Joe had to use the military trucks and had guns at Amos Hammond's head to announce him a winner of elections against Jaesen. It was that election that won in popular muscle rider, which he did not take. What happened when Joe forced himself on the people because he had a military might? In 1989, 4 years later, they went down to the bush. And in 90 days, less than 90 days, they were able to get to Monrovia. In 1997, when they had, prior to 97 elections, they had the greater Liberia and working on Liberia, but people saw Mr. Taylor as that person who could come and unite and provide the kind of leadership that would transform their lives. When they could not see that, in 2003, they started singing slogans again.
Well, after he said, people, they vote on experience. Now you're talking about Weah and how he had the biggest gun.
Yeah.
The experience with the society. That's why they vote for. In 2005, it was George Weah against Madam Salih. Madam Salih won the election, good. And they said, okay, well, this woman is a Harvard trained. She's this person. But in 2011...
Well, I would think that was on the basis of education, not experience.
With all Madam Salih did between 2006 to 2011, riding on the international flavor, providing jobs, expanding the economy, providing electricity, creating opportunity for educational purposes. All of these things Madam Salih did. It took her all to go into the opposition, beg them, bring them on board to have a win the election. Today, in 2017, the Liberian people there were the experience. They didn't have a change. And that change was, that's what George Weah then could hold anybody's hand and make that person a leader, either a representative or a senator, because they wanted that change.
I would think that was based on popularity and not the experience you talked about earlier.
But listen, that change is based on their experiences. It's based on what they feel. It's based on what they think that their life has been or their lifestyle and their life will be. That's what called the experience. That's what they vote on. And so the question in 2023 will be, are they better off now than they were before? And this lands me into the next issue of Bwaka's prospect. Should Bwaka win the CPP nomination? Should Bwaka win the CPP nomination and take George Weah ahead on in 2023? It's going to be the Liberian people going to be measuring two persons with two presidential experiences. One as a vice president, but we CDC continue to say whenever they want to talk bad about what's happening or what happened in the country, they say Joseph Bwaka. On Bwaka then. On Bwaka and Ellen. When it comes to the good, they don't want to separate him. So they're going to keep with that narrative. But this is it. The Liberian people in 2023 will be measuring two individuals who have been tested and tried. 2017, George Weah has not been tested. So in 2023, they're going to be testing, they're going to be voting and making decisions on a tested President Weah against a tested Joseph Bwaka. And the experiences will show that there are more people on the job today than there were when Bwaka was vice president, helping the president. There were more businesses that have left the country than they were when Bwaka was vice president. There are more infrastructure development that occurred when Bwaka was vice president than happening now. There are more people who had opportunity to do businesses and earn for their family when Bwaka was vice president and George Weah was president. There were pregnant women, girls, and children who are going to hospitals and be treated free in the county, and they were getting proper medication than they are getting now. So these experiences
Mr. Ability, you try, Mr. Ability, Mr. Ability, can I hurt you there? You tried you trying to credit Ambassador Bouaka for the successes doing the leadership of former President Sally. But most often we listen to people from the Bouaka camp when it comes to the failures.
Mr. Ability, line with a question and you can come in. Go ahead.
You are trying to credit Ambassador Bouaka for the successes witnessed or achieved under the administration of former President Sally. But when it comes to the failure of the administration of Sally, I mean, most often you, a supporter of Bouaka, a member within the Unity Party, you say, no, Bouaka was the vice president of the corruption that was in the government. Bouaka cannot be responsible for it. He was just like an old race car parked in the garage, and we cannot blame Bouaka for it. Then we give Bouaka a chance and to see that Bouaka will do it differently.
Did I mention that on the video? Did I mention that, or you are referencing other people?
We've been following a lot of you, including you on the social media, trying to detach Bouaka from the failure of the Ellen Johnson Sally government, but yet you are now trying to credit the successes under the leadership of Ellen Johnson Sally as an achievement of Bouaka that the Liberian people can vote on in 2017 and 2023 rather.
Julius, as a host of this show, I expect that you will provide or you try to elevate conversations that I have made on this show. If you have any conversation that I've made privately, maybe you could bring it up. But I've been who I've been, who I am. I will certainly take responsibility and place responsibilities where they are. And so I'm saying that whatever you consider failures, even if they were, in which was true, there were failures. There were some issues that they could have done better that they did not do, but which Ambassador Bouaka himself said to the Liberian people that there were some things we could have done better, but we did not do them. But I can promise you that I have learned a lot more from sitting and watching. And when I get on the track, because I've learned more from sitting and watching, when I get on the track, I can be a better race car. And then it got blown out of context. But here it is, the Liberian people now are trooping, knowing who this man called Ambassador Bouaka is. They are now making a case for him. You are following his engagement. When Ambassador Bouaka returns and the CP meeting is called, I said this morning, I got up this morning with the date. Every time you wake up in our country, instead of hearing positive news that the government is trying to do positive things, all that we see, all that we get to see and hear is all negative. When there's not a corruption somewhere, there is a killing somewhere, another killing somewhere, there's some international condemnation. This is not the kind of Liberia the Liberian people want. This is not what the President Weah for. They put President Weah to make a better Liberia. This country is far deteriorating.
Mr. Ability?
This country is far deteriorating.
Mr. Ability, given your previous summation on the question Julia asked, I understood you to be saying that you will hold Bouaka responsible for the failures that were sustained by the Liberian people during their 12 years rule, but at the same time, he deserved credit for the good things that happened. Did I understand that right?
No, all the happenings of the previous administration, which Ambassador Joseph Bouaka was a part of, he took responsibility. That's why he said publicly that we could have done things better than we did. And so, yeah, with the other opportunities that we had that we have made better, and that we did not make better.
Okay.
But I have seen these things.
Okay.
I have learned these things. So when I get on the track, I'm going to make the difference. I'm going to not repeat those things today. So if you took responsibility, so I would be a fool to sit on this platform and not take responsibility equally for some of the mistakes that the Waka leadership has.
Thank you. And then let me ask the question. Mr. Joseph Waka had a consequential decision to make in the 2017 general and presidential election that could be a help to him. Political pundits are saying that the decision he made by selecting Emmanuel Yunkwe was a surprise, and that was one of the things that nailed him in the political coffin at the election. Now, possibly he will have that opportunity again. Who do you think he can pick that will secure his prospects?
You asked me a question that Ambassador should be answering. You want me to pick into Ambassador Bwaka's mind?
We are discussing politics, Mr. Ability. We are discussing politics. You know this business. You are analyzing the issue. Hold on, Mr. Ability. I'm asking you for your analytical suggestion, if not suggestion. I'm asking you for your analytical view on who could be a possible VP of vice presidential candidate to Mr. Bwaka, that would be of help to him as opposed to being a drag on the ticket, as was the case in 2017. I mean, whatever you say, Mr. Bwaka is not going to say, okay, because Bilete says it, I'm going to do it. No, that's not the case. I just want to get your take. I mean, you can decline on it. That's okay. Go ahead.
So the CPP, which Mr. Ambassador Bwaka is a part of, has a framework that guides its running mate selection. So should Ambassador Bwaka win the nomination as the presidential candidate, he will have to work within the confines of the CPP framework to select his running mate. Are there qualified people who can add more flavor to Bwaka's presidency? Yes, there are a lot of people within the CPP.
Give me one.
Level Bwaka to be able to determine the kind of person he wants.
Give me two. Who can possibly be two person? One that will secure his chances better.
It could be me as a member of the ANC. It could be me. I'm a member of the ANC. So the framework document calls for any member within the CPP whose the presidential candidate is not from that party. Any other member in any of the other three parties.
Any other political leader or any other member.
Any other member in the CPP.
Okay. Julius?
But you are a member, you just admitted that you are a member of the ANC. Why are you not supporting the ANC political leader and standard bearer Alexander Kumi, and you are supporting Mr. Bwaka from the Unity Party?
I'm often quizzed by this question. And my response that I usually would give is that, and so the question is why? So there are several reasons why.
Are you not supporting standard bearer and you support the Unity Party standard bearer Ambassador Bwaka against Alexander Cummings?
And so, for example, in the United States election, in whose Democrats will try to step in, Mitt Romney, Massachusetts senator, who the senator from the Senator Mitt Romney did not support Donald Trump because he felt that Donald Trump never had the kind of temperament, whatever it took to make a better United States. The reason, even the Colin Powell been a Republican, but he supported Democratic candidates. And so I'm a member of the ANC. I remain a member of the ANC. I'm not going to resign from the ANC, but I don't support Alexander Cummings this time around for the presidency. I support Ambassador Bwaka. That's what it is.
When did you become a member of the ANC?
I think in 20.
Is there a public record? To assess actually establish that actually you are a member of the ANC and not the Unity Party?
I've not been a member of the Unity Party. I've not been a member of the Unity Party. In fact, the only political party, national political party I have joined is the ANC. And I fill in the form.
And when did you join the ANC? When did you join the ANC?
I think it was around 2019. I think it was around 2019. If this year is 2020, 2021, yeah, it was 2019 that I joined the ANC. And I joined it in the spirit of the collaboration. And yes, we are all collaborating. So it doesn't matter where we stand, because the goal is that we must collaborate. We must be able to unite our forces to ensure that we rescue and redeem this country from the nightmare of George Weah and his handlers. That's what we're doing. So I'm a member of the ANC, but I support the presidential bid of Ambassador Jaesen Weah.
My follow-up question there. What motivated you to, in 2019, join the ANC when by 2019 we have 4 collaborating political parties called the CPP, right? What really motivated you that you did not join the Unity Party, neither the Benin Nigeria or Liberia People Party or the Yombli Kanga Liberty Party, but you chose to join the ANC? What motivated you? Are there any foundational principles of the ANC values and ideology or philosophy that the ANC espoused to Mr. Kumi that drove you to the ANC?
So Julius.
Just joined the ANC because you wanted to be part of the CPP. So any political party, which is a constituent political party within the ANC, a matter little to you, but to just be a member of that. Is that true?
Julius, then if that was the case, then the other parties that you named, after I joined them, if I just want to be just a member. But you sent the question.
So I'm asking what motivated you to join the ANC? What about the ANC in terms of our values, our philosophy, and ideology, the spaces, that motivated you?
So you're asking my personal ethos for which that drove me to the
values. I'm asking for the values, the ideology, the philosophy, and principle that you see within the ANC that has been espoused to a political leader, extended that motivated you to join the ANC and not the other constituent political party.
Julius, you very well know me to be somebody who likes to engage in new institutions, to grow them, to make them vibrant, to make them functional. And so I saw the ANC as a new institution, and that my expertise would have been needed. And then I've been able to engage, and I still maintain good relationship with members of the ANC today because I'm a member of the ANC. The only difference is that I think this is unprecedented in our politics, where people think, who this means that because you are in a political institution, so anybody the political institution posts for, you must support that person. We have to change that kind of mindset. So I'm a member of the ANC, like any American would do. The Democratic Party member will support another Republican Party. I'm looking at a greater good of our country. It's not about just party.
Thank you.
It's not about party. So
thank you.
It's not about party. So the CPP that has the ANC, the Liberty Party, the ALP, the Unity Party, we have a common goal. This is why we're going to engage collectively and unitedly so that we can show that the Liberian people, their aspirations, their wishes are realized.
Thank you, folks. You are watching the Freedom of Information Hour with Julius T. Jaesen, and Julius is here. I'm answering CA, partnering with him as we conduct this edition of the Freedom of Information Hour here at Focus on Liberia, where we educate, we elevate, and promote all things Liberia. Our guest is Mr. Ibrahim Arability, who is joining us on the phone from Monrovia, Liberia. And we have been discussing the topic, President Weah's re-election efforts and prospect of Vice President Joseph Boakai for 2023. We will take a short break and read comments after that. I have a question for Mr. Ability. Let him be thinking about that answer because this one is tough. Let him be thinking about the answer. And Mr. Ability, here is the question. It is your right to support who you want to be president, despite of what political party you're in. I get it. But why are the reasons for which you are supporting Mr. Boakai over Elizana Benedict Cummings, who is your political leader? Find those reasons, let them be cogent enough, and then I will swallow them. But before that, we'll take a little break. When we come back, we will read comments, so be finding your answer. A short break and we'll be right back, folks.
At Focus on Liberia, we discuss everything Liberia, from education to politics, arts and culture, entertainment, agriculture, history, religion, family, and technology. Focus on Liberia uncovers and showcases the best of Liberia and shows the world the truth about Liberia. We educate, elevate, and promote all things Liberia. We conduct interviews, panel discussions, debates, and more. Tune in to Focus on Liberia on Facebook and YouTube and be a part of the stories that make up the news.
This is Focus on Liberia, and I am Dennis Jah.
I'm Anthony here with my partner, Mr. Julius T. Jaesen, who is the host of the program, the Freedom of Information Hour. At this time, we will bring in comments, and then we will get back to our guest to respond. And that tough questions, he's trying to package the answers. I don't need one answer, I need more. Let's hear from this writer, the viewer, Anthony Freeman, right? Ability lacks integrity and giving unbalanced assessment on situation in Liberia. That person is going after instability. Let's hear from Elizana Boniface Emmanuel Hayes. Anthony Freeman, call in on the show to rebut him. Somebody is talking to him to do so, to do that. Let's hear from Marie Quade. You just come on air and be lying to people. Bunch of criminals. Marie Quade, this is all you do. Just come on show and just curse people. You should stop this kind of behavior. These former government officials are working to make their way back to power. Ability is part of the false propagandists working hard to come back to steal our resources. That is a huge charge there against our guests. Let's hear from Matthew Weah Brown. Even in the United States, Republicans that just in power are doing everything possible to come back. Yeah, Republicans that were just in power are doing everything to come back. So what do you anticipate of politicians in Liberia? Weah Brown is making a logical point there. The politicians, this is what they do. They always want to be in power. So why are you fighting them? The people will decide. Weah Brown again, the CDC herself also has serious internal crisis, not because NPP and Alex Taylor are not talking about it. Talking about it most often. They do talk about it. It was in the press the other time. They are crying. They're being sidelined. In the sideline, rather. They will talk about it. Let's hear from Trent Power. He's viewing us from YouTube. I am in agreement with Mr. Ability. I currently sponsor 2 students at the University of Liberia. I pay fees as I have 2,500 AD per person. Enrollment at LU is not entirely free. Let's hear from Woti Tubase. Yeah, Christopher Woti Tubase. Liberian opposition is losing the war of ideas thanks to President Weah and the ruling party stand on modern development. And Tubase, by the way, is a supporter of President Weah. I would think he must be a seditious too. I'm not sure of that one. What is a definition for modern development? That person is asking Tubase, because the one I see in Liberia does not look modern. It's the same thing. Let's hear from Francis Bona. Then George Weah is the same. Popularity make him one, but not experienced. Let's hear from Siata Thompson. Mr. Bwaka is not well. Siata, are you a doctor to know that Mr. Bwaka is not well? And by the way, she is a supporter of Mr. Alexander Benedict Cummings. I would think she is an ANC, they can say. Cummings should stop fingering document. We're not after quote for president. That person threw a political shot there. Let's hear from Ladi. Mr. Ability, what's the way forward? How will you and your stand-up bearer alleviate poverty in Liberia since the current administration is not governing well? That is a question for Mr. Ability. Let's hear from Flomo. Liberians are not ready to elect anyone to the presidency with the lifestyle of Alexander Cummings. Someone is throwing a shot as well. Let's hear from Augustus here. My brother, anybody can join a party. he or she wants. Stop asking that question. This is a long one from Wilton Tubasa, who is noted for writing the longest comment. Tubasa writes, tribal politics is practiced all over the world. For example, Western democracy is not pure. It is filled with tribalism, oligarchism, etc. So what we have to do in Africa is blend democracy with African tradition and find ways to improve the system in terms of development. Since tribalism is what the people want and practice, maybe we can say nobody should hire more than 5% from their tribe in certain government ministries and the presidential cabinet and pass it into law. Tubasa is making a whole different argument there. Let's hear this one from Anthony Freeman. This former government of, I think I read this one. Marie Bade, why are you saying Marie Bade? Are you not doing, Marie, these kind of words, swearing words to be coming from, a woman, who claims to be advocate? It's not necessary. I think we're not going to be reading your comments here. I'm not stopping you to say what you want to say, but there are certain things we don't encourage on our platform. You need to respect our rules here. Like for Ramsey, since the inception of the CDC government, they have never passed MCC. That person is saying the CDC is a fiasco when it comes to the MCC. So, Mr. Ability, let's come back to you. A few comments from our viewers. What do you have to say in response to the comments? Some of them, giving a little pat, but some are just biting you. Let's hear you.
You read the comments, and I sure you listened very well as you read those comments. Mm-hmm. You see that a lot of people who come and try to make some attacks, mm-hmm. They have not presented any issue in their attacks, but just to spew off some negative. But I'm not going to respond to those. But I'm just concerned about the repeated comments that past government officials. I have not been a government official. I've always been an educator, and I'm passionate about doing what I'm doing, and I feel very proud of being an educator. And so that's me. And Julius can testify to that. I have not been a government official, but I see where our country is, and so I'm concerned. I'm concerned about how we can rescue this country. I'm concerned about the things that I get to see every day in the face of our people. I get to experience what our young people have to say every day. And so I'm concerned. And so I'm engaging. And with all that I have, I'm going to engage and ensure that this country is rescued. And so somebody asked about how we intend to alleviate poverty. I don't think this is a question that should be strange to Ambassador Boaka and his team, because in 2006, when they took over the country, we all know what the country was. The country was a pariah state. It was a state that was failed. But the government was able to transition this country into a well-functioning society. What has happened since the government left with George Weah and his handlers? The country has deteriorated. Look at our international rating. See what's happening every day in our society. By 7 o'clock in this country, people are running away from the streets or fear of their lives. I tend to say the harsh economic realities are not just enough. Now people are being killed in their homes. But your question, and so the CPP, hopefully through the leadership of Ambassador Boaka as head of the CPP, we will present to the Liberian people. A contract as expressed in our manifesto as to what we intend to do and how we intend to do what we will do. We're not just going to be saying things off our head. We're going to make sure we get that contract to the Liberian people the very first time we move it towards our campaign. And they will hold up at that. We're not going to come back after 4 years when we still miserable and say, oh, that was an ambitious plan. And so we cannot provide the data, and because there's no structure in place to analyze or collect the data to show job employment and all these things. We're not going to be like those people. We're going to ensure that we give the Liberian people a concise and clear direction as to where we intend to take our country under Ambassador Joseph Yimon Boaka and the CPP government. But here is it. You asked the question, what are my reasons? Of supporting for the president? Is that the question?
Go ahead,
Was
Mr.
that a
Ability.
question?
Mhm.
Was that a question?
Yes,
No,
that was my
really.
question. Why are you supporting Mr. Bwaka for president over your political leader or your party's political leader?
I have three fundamental and cogent reasons for which I support Ambassador Bwaka presidency in 2023. The first is, I'm not expressing it in the order of relevance, but I'm just expressing it. Ambassador Bwaka has the ability to reconcile this divided nation under Judge Weah. This nation has divided further on Ambassador Weah, that to the extent that even to get to have jobs, to have a space in our democracy, you must have some political alignment with the ruling establishment. Even if you're a business person and you are not part of the ruling establishment, you get strangulated. Ambassador Bwaka has that ability, understanding the Liberian context. He has the ability to reconcile this divided nation. Ambassador Bwaka, Ambassador Bwaka has the capacity to understanding leadership within the context of a Liberian society. Because
you just said, Mr. Ability, can I ask Mr. Ability? Mr. Ability, can I ask?
Yeah, you can ask.
Hello, Mr. Ability, you just said Ambassador Bwaka has the ability to reconcile the nation. You're talking about the promotion of reconciliation if he takes state power as president in the country. But right within the Unity Party, we see some level of division breeding in the Unity Party, where certain folks within the Unity Party believe that within the CPP, the Unity Party should move toward block voting, where other people believe within the party it's an infringement of the democratic right. Ambassador Bwaka has not been able to exercise, leadership in the Unity Party, plus the crisis within the CPP, and Joseph Bwaka being the elderly statement within the CPP. What has been the role played by Ambassador Joseph Bwaka to ensure that there is unity within the CPP? We listen to people who support Ambassador Joe Bwaka attacking Cummings, and at the same time, supporters of Cummings attacking what supporters of Ambassador Bwaka and Ambassador Bwaka himself. Why has Ambassador Bwaka, as a man that you believe that going to promote unity within the country when he takes over state power, what has he been able to do?
And so, I don't want to hold you wrong for your understanding of reconciliation. And so in my mind, with the question and the narrative leading to your question, that because there are differences of ideas and opinions, so that means that there's unity. That's not the case.
But we see those differences leading to personal attack. We have seen those differences in opinions and issues leading to personal attack.
When we say reconciliation, it's not about synchronizing people's ideas into one. It's about having former enemies, people who think that they cannot work together, to understand that they need to work together, they need to live together in a society governable by all persons. Ambassador Bwaka has demonstrated that over the years. He's been able to mitigate several conflicts. He said that. And so to think that reconciliation will only mean that I should think the same way as you think because we're in one organization, that's wrong. That's a wrong understanding of reconciliation. So Ambassador Bwaka understands that. And so that's why upon his return, all of the issues that have been engulfed with the CPP, he said it, that he's going to call a meeting. He did one meeting before he left. We see some level of calm within the CPP.
The meeting that you talk about that he did before he left, saw other political party boycotted and not showing up.
But Julius, you got to give a guest chance. We have some zealots who would say some things. Do you expect Ambassador Bwaka to tell me exactly what to say and how to say it? Oh, but that doesn't mean that we are not reconciled. So he has the ability. He has demonstrated that over the period, and he will demonstrate as president of the country in 2024.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Ability. Time is always our enemy in these kind of, engagements. But we know we have your phone number, and we can always reach out to you to get your perspective on these national issues as they unfold in your homeland. We want to say thank you for coming to the Freedom of Information Hour with Julius T. Johnson here at Focus on Liberia, where we educate and elevate and promote all things Liberia. We will take your closing statement and part with you because of time, sir. Again, we thank you for coming. Go ahead.
Thank you for the invite today. I look forward to further engagement. Once it's in the interest of our country and our people, we will provide our perspective whenever the time permits us to do so. I'm hopeful that, and I hope that President Weah and his handlers will be able to understand what they need to do if they have to go back to Liberian people and ask them for votes. They need to provide the kind of development that the people need in the context of the human development. They need to improve the people's livelihood by providing jobs, by improving human and food and physical security. They need to do a lot. But with all that they're going to do, I think the time has ran out. I think that they are just on life support, and that when the CPP presents its ticket in 2023, the Liberian people will overwhelmingly elect Ambassador Joseph Boakai, hopefully as head of the CPP, to on the first ballot to show that this dying nation of ours that was left with that was living in a stand-up position when President Weah took it from Ambassador Boakai and Madaseli. We want to rescue this country, and that's why Ambassador Boakai is poised to do it. And the Liberian people are aware, and that's why all of the issues every day the CDC talk against Ambassador Boakai, because they know that the Liberian people have made a decision because they trusted his ability. He has demonstrated that over his years of service to the country, and that's why he's going to work to the executive marshal in 2024. And I hope that you yourself will come to cover that inauguration, because Ambassador Boakai will be the next president of the Republic of Liberia.
Thank you so very much. Mr. Abraham Arability has been our guest on this edition of the Freedom of Information Hour with Julius T. Johnson. He said we will go to Liberia to cover the inauguration of Joseph Boakai. What a prophecy, politically speaking. Liberians, are you listening? You have a president in waiting. Hey, he said his own. The voters will decide. The voters actually are the one who make the decision. Julius?
Well, thank you. I want to first of all say thank to Mr. Ability for accepting our invite to come on the Freedom Information Hour here on Focus on Liberia to discuss the future of our country. We like to say thank you to him. And like he said, I think the ultimate decision about the way moving 2023 is squarely resting with the Liberian people. If the Liberian people are feeling the pinch of hardship, well, they will make an ultimate decision to vote for Ambassador Boakai or Cummins or anybody promising a better Liberia within the opposition. Equally so, if the Liberian people believe that Weah is moving the development Nino and Liberia is witnessing some level of rapid development under President Weah, I think the Liberian people will make the ultimate decision to be able to enable a Weah re-election effort, because I mean our voters are the reflection of the society that we want. If we want a better Liberia, it's based on the choices that we make. So as to whether Liberian people will make that decision for an Ambassador Boakai presidency is something that, in my opinion and in my view, yet need to be analyzed. The facts need to start showing itself up. But I think generally, well, to our viewer, the show was nice. And thank to Mr. Ability for accepting that invite on the Freedom of Information Hour. Every Thursday, we will always bring to you this platform where we discuss issues of socio-political and economic development unfolding in Liberia, and as well welcome your participation. On the first edition, we were able to solicit your opinions, I mean, through a call, but today we did not take call, I mean, but however the situation, you were able to express your view under the live, your views were read by the by my partner and I being the host. So it was nice, Mr. C. It was nice being on the Freedom Information Hour with Billy.
Thank you, Julius. Well, before we close, we want to bring this advertisement to you here. I focus on Liberia. We have a show coming up today, and yeah, it is. And that show is our program with Dennis Ja, a partner here at Focus on Liberia. And that show is called Tough Talking Thursday. Today, they will be talking about the ANC, Elizana Cummings, and the CPP. And the program comes on today at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. You do not want to miss it. Weah Cooney, Focus on Liberia political analyst, will be here. Carl Famula, our policy analyst, will be here. Mohammed Sharif, our political analyst, will be here. We have invited Anthony Moraya Yakula, who has agreed. We're hoping that she will be able to attend and not boycott this one this time. I hope so. Also, Focus on Liberia have a debate that is scheduled for Sunday. We have a debate on Sunday. Mr. Rabo Gagwa and Mr. Hassan Fadiga will be debating. They will be debating the topic, Cummings' decision-making and plans. Rabo Gagwa questions Mr. Cummings' decision-making and judgment. And he also have qualms with Mr. Cummings' plan. He doesn't believe Mr. Cummings has plans. Even if he does, they are not good enough, he thinks. Then Mr. Fadiga supports Cummings' decision-making. He supports Cummings' judgment. He believes in Cummings' judgment and decision-making, and he thinks Cummings has some good ideas and plans for Liberia. These two gentlemen disagree on those two fundamental issues, and they will be here Sunday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time for a debate. And you do not want to miss that debate. I will be here moderating along with my partner, Dennis Baku Kenjuja. You do not want to miss it. The song says we are all Liberians, and that song will be closing the Freedom of Information Hour. Next Thursday will be another one. It will be exciting. This time we promise you our guests will be live in studio and you'll see them. Liberian people can say kolo kolo, you will see them. And we hope to take some calls. We couldn't take some calls today because Mr. Ability was using the phone line. He could not join by video due to some technical issues at his end. The song, we are all Liberians, and bye-bye from me and Julius. Thank you, folks.
We are Liberians. Liberia is our home. Liberian people.